Welcome everyone to disAbilityLifeTV. I'm your host, Yvette Pegues, and we're going to talk about wheels. There's wheels on a car, there's wheels on a bus, there's wheels on my chair, but today we're going to talk about living beyond wheels with Mr. BenOxley. Please tune in, it's going to be great.
Disability Life TV is sponsored by Connor Dental Associates.
Today, my guest on Disability Life TV on the BizLinks TV network is Mr. BenOxley. You may have already heard of him. He flies out of planes, he jumps out of planes, he does a lot of crazy things we're going to talk about, but he's also brilliant. So let's talk about BenOxley early days. Tell us about your childhood. Where were you born?
I was born at South Fulton in Atlanta.
South Fulton Hospital, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. So I have a question. Since this is Disability Life TV, are you comfortable talking about your different ability?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. So what is it called? What do you identify with?
CP.
CP is cerebral palsy.
Yes, ma'am.
Cerebral palsy. So for someone who may not know what that is, can you tell us a little bit about that condition?
I basically say that my brain is wired backwards because the muscles that are strong in someone else's body is weak in mine.
So his muscles in your brain?
Yes. It's the communication from the brain to the muscles. So the brain, when I do something, the brain kind of gets short-circuited and it can't remember. So if you give me multiple tasks, it kind of gets crossed up and I have a hard time doing it.
Excellent. So how does that affect you physically, Ben?
I can't. I have a hard time feeding myself. I can feed myself, but I have to use special utensils. I have to use special things to brush my teeth. I have to have assistance with dressing and just basically everyday tasks like dressing, feeding myself, like I said. But the way I tell people is I know mentally how to do it, but I have to have physical help. But the good thing about me is I know exactly what to do and how to do it. And I think that's important when you have a disability.
Exactly. I love that about you. And he's always this cool, guys. And here's the thing. What most people don't understand about living with a disability when it impacts you physically, much like it does myself and Ben, there's also a need to have toileting support. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, Ben, I don't know if you've had this happen to you, but you go into a bathroom where there's maybe 20 or 30 stalls.
Yes.
And there's maybe 2 that are handicapped accessible, which means that they're larger than most of the other bathrooms, but those are the only ones taken.
Oh, yes.
So what that means is, if that larger stall is taken, then Ben and I have to either have on a diaper or a change of clothes, because like Ben mentioned, and even in my case, we don't have the type of tools and the type of alarms that your body has to let us know when we need to toilet. So by the time we figure out we need to toilet, it's probably too late. I've only been disabled for 4 years, and I had to learn that very quickly, but I'm mentioning that because for the sake of myself and Ben, if you're in a bathroom and there's 20 other stalls, recognize that those are the only 1 or 2 that Ben and I can fit into with our equipment. And the other thing that's really important about that, for some of you businesses who are out there, the universal sign for handicap is a really good way to educate some of your other consumers that when they go into that bathroom, it's not just a big bathroom. It follows the American with Disability Act that allows Ben and I to get out of the house and go to places and be able to toilet ourselves and have the type of companions and support that we need to move our big old equipment and our wheels around. Does that make sense, Ben?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me a little bit about when you acquired CP. Is this something you acquired at birth?
It was at birth. Yes, what happened was the oxygen was cut off in my brain and I was in my mom too long. So as I was in my mom, the oxygen was cut off to the brain.
So is that what caused the CP?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your childhood.
Oh, I lived a normal childhood. Like, my parents did not treat me disabled at all, and in my manual chair, I went down the side of Stone Mountain. My dad pushed me down the side of Stone Mountain. And I'll talk more about that later. But yeah, my dad pushed me physically down the side of Stone Mountain.
So I don't know if you're watching, but there's no need to report this as a form of abuse.
No, I'll get more into that as the show goes on. I'll talk more into that.
He's safe, he's good, his parents love him.
Yes.
Correct? All right. So he said he was born with a disability, and he also said that he had a very normal life, which means you got spankings.
Yes.
And as simple as that sounds, to be treated like a traditional, normal child means that we still have the very same rules, the very same discipline, and the very same mischievous.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Very
sure he was. So you know what? We do things differently, but that doesn't mean we want to be treated different per se.
I always tell people I do things different, but I get it done.
And I love that because there's always A to B. We just get there differently, right?
We can all do the same thing. We just do it differently.
Exactly. And I really do believe that I always have a problem remembering this quote, but necessity is the mother of invention. So imagine now someone living with a disability in a world, even though we're 25 years into the ADA, still have to adapt.
Yes.
So the reason why the ADA was created is so that we didn't have to adapt to the world, but the world had to now adapt to us, which makes it inclusive. Not that we're special or special needs, but everyone uses that button on the side of the door and the ramp and the curb cuts. So it's really to make our world inclusive. And I love that you had a childhood that was traditional. It was typical. It was like anyone else's childhood with minor differences based on your cerebral palsy. Is that right?
Yes.
So tell me about your parents. Do you have any other sisters or brothers?
I have a sister and a nephew, a 5-year-old nephew.
Excellent. So tell me about your sister. Does she have cerebral palsy?
No, she is normal.
Okay, so it's not genetic. It's not something that you're born with because your mother or your father had it. So let's say there's little BenOxleys running around one day. What are the chances of your offspring and your children having cerebral palsy?
None.
0.
It all depends on the mom, how the birth goes.
So it's not about genetics, it's about birth, the actual activity and process of birthing.
Yes, and not everyone is in a wheelchair. It can be where it only affects the left side, the right side, the speech. It can just be different parts. So just like with a spinal cord injury, everyone's different.
Right. So most people don't know that I have both a brain and a spinal cord injury because I have such control over my upper body. But a lot of my disability is in the top half of my head. So I love that you made that distinction. And what's important that we want to always share is that there's different levels of every disability. There's no two people alike. There's no two disabilities alike. You'll see another guest of ours who also has CP, but how it affects him is going to be very different than how it affects Ben. Is that fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So tell us a little bit about your school life. How was school for you?
School was fun. As far as, the social interaction, I got the same thing, so same social interaction when, being in the hallways. I changed classes just like everybody else, got in trouble in the hallways just like everybody else. And always causing trouble with people just like any other teenager.
Yes.
But when it goes to education, that was a little different. I'll talk more about that as the show goes on.
I'd love to hear more about that. But what's important that Ben just brought to our attention is our childhood, our livelihood doesn't have to be different because we are. And that's the great thing about being disabled. If there is a great thing, right? It's that we are able to adapt and problem solve. I love the fact that I problem solve every single day because having a brain injury, I need to adapt and adjust. And that problem solving challenge doesn't make me lazy. I don't have to just assume that I'm going to get up and I'm going to get dressed the same way I did yesterday. It may change every day.
And I want to add something too. It's all about the support system and the people you have in your life as to how your childhood will be and how you interact when you get older as an adult.
That's true.
It's all about your support system.
And isn't it all about attitude too?
Yes, attitude is a lot.
I mean, there's a reason why the word attitude starts with the letter A. It's number 1, isn't it?
Yes.
It's
Life is all about how you look at it.
Exactly. So, if we weren't on Disability Life TV, we wouldn't even be talking about Ben's disability because once you talk to him or talk with him or talk about things with him, the chair disappears.
Yes, a lot of people will see I have a disability at first, but then when they get to know me, they'll say, "Oh, I forget you're in a chair."
Exactly. They forget we're in a chair. And that's really exciting, and it's why Ben and I have gotten along so well, and we met at My Voice, My Participation, My Board. And we'll talk a little bit about that if you don't mind pulling us into that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So tell me about your nephew.
He is 5, and he's running around, acting crazy, just doing typical 5-year-old things. But one thing about him, he loves the wheelchair.
Yes.
He's like, let me sit in your lap.
Yes.
Drive me around.
Yes.
Take me here, take me there.
So my kids jump on the back of my wheelchair because they think I'm a shopping cart. What is your experience with the wheelchair? Because I love the way the innocence of a child just accepts you as you are, with or without wheels.
Yes. I work at Publix as a greeter. one day a week. And so the kids come up to me and they call it my car.
There you go. There you go.
I'm like, they're like, but he can't walk. I'm like, yeah, but instead of walking, I drive.
That's right. That's right. And it's so funny because when I meet kids, especially the younger ones, and they're in their stroller and I'm in my wheelchair, they look up at me like, Mommy, I want a stroller like that.
Yes, I had a little girl one day. She come up to me and she talked to me for 45 minutes. One day, her mom was like, "Come on, we gotta go." She was just so inclusive in the wheelchair, and so now every time she sees me at the store, she's like, "Mama." So she runs to me. It's awesome.
It is. It is pretty awesome. And the importance of even having this conversation and being just so conversational about it is that it's only as hard to accept as you make it. When children meet us, they could care less if we're sitting or standing. They look at our heart. They look at the way that we respond to them. And they look at, the fun that they have with us. And we sometimes become kind of an amusement park. But, that's okay too, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. I love it.
So I guess we just suffice that to say that when you meet someone with a disability, obviously give them your full attention, eye contact, not the person that they're with, but give them a chance to show you who they are and give us a chance to get around. And if we need help, we'll likely ask for it. But if you think we need help, be comfortable to ask.
Yeah,
right?
Say, hey, can I help you out? What you need?
Right. Tell me about the most bizarre situation that you've encountered being in a chair, identifying with a disability, and being in the public eye.
Probably the most bizarre. Actually, it still gets to me. It's not really negative, but sometimes parents, when they come in the grocery store, that their kids will say, "Hey, Mommy, what's wrong with him?" And I'll grab their arm and take off. And I'm like, no, come here. And
right.
So after that, they're like, "Oh, okay, well, I didn't want to offend you. You're not going to offend me by wanting to know questions about my disability or wanting to know questions about the chair, because, hey, it's how we all educate."
And isn't it part of our body?
Yes.
That's like saying, why do you have an arm? It's part of our body. And most people with disabilities who identify with a disability or who have to use some type of equipment, they're usually pretty open and honest about talking, right?
Oh, yes. I love it because education is everything.
And here's what I tell people all the time. Grace in education really solves every problem. So you have to give the person grace, assuming they just don't know. Like the parent in the situation where you're speaking of probably thinks, oh no, my child's at it again, being rude and being, disrespectful. So I think it's out of kindness. So we give them the grace, much like you did, and then the education. Do you agree with that?
Yes. And one thing I like to do, I like to educate kids because they're also the future generation. So.
Right.
And there's a lot of stereotypes sometimes when it comes to having a disability, so I feel like if we educate the young people, those stereotypes will go away.
Absolutely. And see, here's what's amazing about that. Our children will change our lives. I know my children continue to change mine. So as we educate the kids, as Ben says, they will then present to their parents and their family members the comfort level that's required for us all to live together harmoniously, right?
Yes.
Isn't it about inclusive living? I mean, we're all different in some way or another. Even twins have differences. Do you agree?
Not just getting out in the community, but education. It's all about inclusive. We're just normal people.
Right. Yeah. I don't know, Ben. You're kind of awesome. You're a little more than normal. Yeah. And he knows it.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay. So before we get too deep into how just amazing and handsome and incredible Ben is, we're going to break for our sponsors. I want to make a special mention to Connor Dental and Associates in Kennesaw, Georgia. Thank you so much for sponsoring Disability Life TV.
Connor Dental Associates, full-service dentistry, providing orthodontics, implants, laser dentistry, and general care, set in a calm and relaxing environment. Our experienced dentist and staff are here to maintain your dental health, improve your appearance and quality of life. Compassionate, professional, and informative. Ask about our core whitening system, servicing insured and non-insured patients of all ages. Located in Kennesaw, near I-75. Call today and experience the difference for yourself.
Welcome back to Disability Life TV. Our guest today is Ben Oxley, but let's not go any further because I know you're looking at my braces. I have on the nice hot pink rubber bands on my braces thanks to Connor Dental and Associates. So I'll digress back into the topic at hand, and that's Mr. Ben Oxley. Tell us a little bit about the mountainside.
Okay,
when we left you, he talked about being pushed down the mountain, so we had to revisit this for just a moment.
Here's what happened.
Tell us what happened.
I was about 6 years old.
Okay.
We're going to have a nice, beautiful day at Snow Mountain with the family. My dad says, let's ride the skylab. my cousin was like, okay, let's ride the sky lift. So we rode the sky lift up. And he was like, well, what if we stay on the mountain too late? And we can't get back down because, after a while it stops running.
Yes.
He's like, oh, we'll all work together and we'll push him down the mountain. We'll get him down the mountain. Well, something happened. They stayed at the diner or whatever they were doing too long and we got lost. We couldn't find them. So my mom was like, oh, no, what are we going to do?
Right.
My dad's like, we have to get him down. So not only did we go down the mountain, but we went down the steepest part of the mountain. It was me and my dad and my mom. I'm 6 years old, so, I don't know the dangers of what can happen or what's going to happen.
Right.
But my 1 minute I was like, yeah, let's go. Oh, yeah, I was screaming, having a good time. Next minute I was like, oh, no, oh, no. So it was back and forth between, oh, yeah, let's have a good time. Oh, no, oh, no. I was like, yeah. My dad was like, oh, no, oh, no. But he couldn't move for a whole day after that. He was like, oh, my God, my muscles hurt. I will never do that again.
And I'm glad you cleared that up. So no abuse. What is it? What did the commercial says? No children were harmed during this mountain adventure. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And I love that because how old are you, Ben?
I'm 28.
28 years old. And he still remembers that moment, just like any other child would remember bonding with his family. So I love that you brought that up and that you still remember it. Now let's move on to your education. Tell us a little bit about that.
I was in regular classes. I was in the orthopedically impaired class.
Okay.
I was in regular social studies and science and all that stuff. But when it came to actually getting a high school diploma, I was set back a little bit because I got what they call a special needs diploma. And what that is, it doesn't count for academics.
Okay.
So I had to spend a little extra. Well, I didn't spend no extra time in high school. I just had to be. I wasn't going for academic credits. I didn't know this until 11th grade year of high school. So my high school teacher said, Ben, why aren't you getting a regular diploma? I was like, well, they said special needs diploma, and at the time, my mom did not know what they were talking about.
Right.
Did I know that when they get a high school diploma, you're considered a dropout because that's how they count the numbers.
Right.
So, needless to say, the next thing I did, I got out of high school, 2007, went back, and I'm getting my GED right now. So.
Yay!
I'm not quite there, but when I started the GED, I couldn't even multiply 2 times 2. Now I'm doing middle school math. So
boom,
and I can't even write. So it's just how much you use your brain and how much you put your mind to something. Because if you really put your mind to it and you believe in yourself, it will happen.
So let's just expound on that a little bit, right? When you go into special need classrooms or orthopedically impaired, as in Ben's case, you get a certificate of completion, which means in most college universities, you can't apply. You have to have a GED or a high school diploma.
Yeah,
so if you're advocating for your child with a disability, make sure you understand the academic limitations and opportunities.
Yes,
Does that make sense?
And really fight for what you want. If you believe you can do it, really fight for it. Because if you don't fight for it, the teachers may just put you through there. I mean, no fault of theirs. They didn't know, but we didn't know to fight for it.
So there's multiple tracks. And there's no gray as far as education is concerned. You either graduate with a degree or a high school diploma, or you get a letter of completion. And if you don't create that gray for yourself and self-advocate and say, you know what, it may take me just a little longer, but I'm willing to try to get an actual diploma. Now, I just want to put a footnote at the end of that. There are some universities, a growing number here in the state of Georgia and otherwise, that have inclusive education programs that you can enter as a person with a disability with a letter of completion. But again, you don't graduate or walk with your class. You don't get an actual degree. You get the college experience, but you don't get like a master's or a bachelor's or an associate's degree. We're working on that.
I would like to say, too, when you go to get your GED, I'm taking my GED actually at a college. So what they want you to do is they want you to get certificates so that you can get the college experience and take some college courses, but it's not a degree. It's a certificate in the area that you want to study, so you kind of know what you're getting into after you get your GED.
Right. So it's kind of like a technical school.
Yes.
So you go to a school that doesn't necessarily give you the complete roundness that a brick and mortar university might offer, but you get to now specialize in a specific area of degree or understanding or engineering or whatever it is you want to focus on. So it is something that you should know if you are parenting and educating a child with a disability, because there are other options and they're growing every day. Is that fair to say?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about how we met.
We met at my participation in my board, and basically what it was teaching me how to sit on the advisory board and a board of directors so that I could really be an advocate for the people in the disability community and sit with these board of directors and say this is what needs to change and this is how we can do it. To work more hands-on with them so they know about people with disabilities and really know the impact that we can make.
So, the program is called My Voice, My Participation, My Board. It's offered by the Center for Leadership and Disability at Georgia State University. Let me tell you why that's important. Each and every person in that class learned about things like Robert's Rules. And we learned about how to speak in front of a camera, how to effectively be on a board of directors. And let me tell you why that's important. There's a motto going around that we are using over the past couple of years, we being people with disabilities. It's called Nothing About Us Without Us. So how can you have a board of directors that is representing people with disabilities and no one on the board, no one on advisory, no one on any of the committees have personal experience with the topic and the purpose and the vision of the actual organization?
Yes, I want to mention too, Suki Gleek was also there, and she taught people what they need to do to get in the community, get the accommodations they need, how to go about that, because we talked about transportation.
Right.
We talked about what it took for you to actually get to the meeting to make your own decisions, whether you can make it,
right,
and how to make it.
Exactly.
So that you know exactly what you need before you get to that meeting and how it's going to work to get yourself there, because it's not up to anybody else but you.
Yes. Now, once you get to the place that you're going, the accommodations are the responsibility of the structure, the building, the hotel, the hospital. But see, what people don't understand is that someone with a disability has a whole, package of problems before we even get to the front door. So I'm glad you brought up Disability Link, because they are put in place there right here in Tucker, Georgia, specifically to help people with disabilities get jobs and get going.
And I'm actually part of that program now after being a part of the class.
That's right. So he has been highly sought out since the class. Not that he wasn't already amazing, but now he has these specific, tangible tools that he can not just put on his resume, because he did get a certificate showing that he was taught and trained to be on a board. So now if there's an organization that he finds interest in, he can now approach them saying, I've been board trained. I know that your mission and vision is surrounded around people with disabilities, and I can help because I am that man.
Yes.
You are the man.
Yes.
So let's talk about Looking Beyond the Wheels. That's the name of our episode, and I'd like you to expound on why you chose that.
Well, I always tell people, don't let the disability define you. You define the disability.
Nice.
Because living beyond the wheels is all about, like I said in the beginning, how you proceed life. You can have the worst attitude and never get anywhere, or you can have a positive attitude and be the greatest person on earth. And not that I'm tooting my own horn, but you can you can also change other people's life, and they can become an inspiration to someone else because of you. Because I just hired a new caregiver the other day, and she said, you're an inspiration to me. So I made an impact on her just because of me being who I am and showing people that I may be in a chair, but there's way more to the chair than me.
And the chair is just equipment. It's like his shoes are not his own, even though they always match his outfit. That's another reason why we get along. But, we need to identify with the individual, not the disability. And let's be clear here. Anything that keeps you from achieving your greatest good, anything that impacts your life, your progress, your success, your future, could be disabling. They say that speaking publicly is like the second biggest fear next to death. Now, the recent poll says that first there's death, then there's losing your cell phone or your smartphone, then speaking publicly. But nevertheless, if you look at anything in your life that keeps you away from achieving your greatest good, it could easily be considered a barrier or a disability, depending on the extreme level that we have. Now, see, both of us are in wheelchairs, so you can see our disability. Both of our disabilities are greater than our chairs because we don't just have mobility limitations. We also have other physical limitations and cognition. But I do want to talk a little bit about what's next. Ben's always up to something. So, fill us in.
I will be speaking at Mercer University on April the 18th. I will be speaking to a group of students who are getting their master's degree in social work. So
Social
they're
work.
going to be advocating, and they're going to become the next advocates because they're going to be dealing with people with disabilities throughout their whole career.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So we're educating the future. I say this a lot, grace and education.
Yes.
But isn't education really the key? Not just getting it, but giving it.
Yes.
And grace,
And
getting
that-
it and giving it.
That's one thing I'm really focusing on right now is actually getting into the colleges and speaking and, being around the students and starting outreach projects because the college students are the future generation, and I feel like if we educate the
Right.
future generation, then all these stereotypes and things will not totally go away, but there
Right.
will be a big gap between there, and people, oh, it's just the person who lives here. That's cool.
That's it. Yeah, it's like, dude, get out of my way. You're in a
Yeah.
wheelchair, but you're in my way.
Yeah.
And, we're not advocating that you be mean to anyone, but, I do want to feel like part of the team, right?
Yes.
Let's be part of the team together. So, we're out of time. This happens every episode. Ben, he and I, we can go on forever, but there's something we call a D-Life Diamond. The D-Life Diamond at the end of every show is what's the nugget? What's the message? What do you want people to leave with? And the message. Who is Ben and how can we use your message, your diamond, your nugget today to affect our viewers?
I am someone who is trying to bridge the gap between someone with a disability and someone without a disability so we can all live as one and be the same person and all get along and hang out. And no one see the disability.
And see, I'd like to close with that, but I do want to mention that you skydive?
Yes.
Okay.
I loved it. It was amazing.
Okay. So we're not going to go into too much detail because hopefully the next thing you see on Disability Life TV is Ben and I jumping out of a plane because I'm not doing it by myself.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a deal?
Oh, yeah. I'll go with you any day.
Fist bump on that?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Please look out for our next episodes. Look out for Ben. You heard that he's going to be doing a lot of public speaking. Please hang on tight. Watch out for Ben. And thank you for tuning in.
And I like to add, see the person and not the disability. That's what I always say.
That's good. See the person and not the disability. Tune in next time on Disability Life TV. Thank you for watching.